Okay, I am here today with Roz, one of my former students, because she is, should say, a Praxis graduate of not one but two tests, her middle school
Yeah.
math 5164 and her algebra Praxis. Is that 5162?
It is, yeah.
5162. Okay.
Yeah.
So she is here today to give us all the tips and tricks for not studying for one math exam, but two math exams. So go ahead, Roz, introduce yourself, tell us your Praxis journey.
Okay, so I've not touched maths for literally 30 years. And when I did my academics, it was in England as well. So it's completely, well, not completely, it's a lot different to the one in the United States. Just to give you a brief summary, secondary school in England is middle school and high school combined. And that's what I did, but that was over 30 years ago. So I couldn't remember a lot of things. One thing so when I was studying for my practice exam, some things were coming back, some things weren't. But then I realized that when it came to answering the questions, I wasn't answering the questions how I was supposed to. So, for example, with the practice exam, it's not just knowing the content, it's understanding what they're asking you and how to answer the question, which was my hardest point. I did do the practice exam initially, the middle school maths exam. I didn't score as well as I would have liked. So that's when I decided to use Robin to see how well I can increase my scores, especially with the practice papers. Because when I started doing the practice papers, I realized that my scoring on my practice papers were not anywhere close to passing at all. And that's when I was quite fortunate to come across Robin's page on Facebook. I reached out to her and yep, I'm going to let you ask me the questions, Robin, and we'll take from there.
You're doing so good. I appreciate all the kind comments too. Yeah, so there is, I actually have 3 Facebook groups right now for Praxis Math. I'm debating on adding a 4th one. I just got asked about elementary Praxis 5003. So that's in the
Yeah.
works for 2026. But yeah, I have a Facebook group for Praxis middle school math students it's completely free. It's a free community. It is where Roz came in and was like, I need help. This is, not what I thought I was. What should I say? You didn't think that you were doing as well as you should have been doing, which is true
Yes.
because you're studying and you're taking this test and you took your test initially. And then found the group, and there's a ton of resources in the group. I have a free workshop, but then you did group tutoring with me back in August, I believe. And
Yes,
then
it
we
was.
did
Yeah.
one-on-one sessions, which really, I think, helped your confidence and your mindset with the test. So can you tell us some of your study habits after you took your practice test? And, in group tutoring, I give you problems at each session and that you work through.
Yeah.
So tell us about how we talked about this a little bit before about definitely making sure you had your problems done before we met so
Yes.
that you could ask questions and,
Yeah.
basically run us through how you would approach the exam. And can you tell everyone how much your score increased the second time you took it after all
Okay.
this learning?
So initially, just to give I had to learn a lot of the math again, but I didn't give myself too much time to study because I wanted to get the exam done as soon as I can. Initially, what my mistake was I presumed I will be ready I set my exam for like 2 months later. So that gave me 2 months of studying. I have 3 kids, 3 young kids. I'm working full time. But then I realized so I studied all the contacts. I used Khan Academy. I used the Mometrics book initially. So I kind of relearned the math again. To me, in my personal opinion, I felt like 2 months was far too long for me to study because as soon as I start getting closer to the exam date, I was feeling burnt out. I didn't want to study anymore. I felt like there was nothing more I can do. I couldn't find any resource either on the internet Because as you can see, when you start doing Googling for 5164, other than the ETS practice paper, which is only one practice paper that they give you, there's really not much resource to study. And that's when, closer to my exam, I got to find Robin's Facebook group. I was really overwhelmed. I was burnt out. I didn't think I can do the exam at all. And I reached out to Robin. I bought, first of all, I bought her exam questions. There was like a package that you were selling, I think it was approximately for $17 at the time.
Yes. Yep. I
The
have a
smaller
practice
one.
test. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I bought that and went through that. That helped me. But I felt like having a one-on-one tutorial will help me, because going through those question papers on my own and the answers wouldn't be enough. I needed to speak to somebody with more experience if I was missing something, if there was any kind of like secrets you were going to share with me, and how to answer the questions. I may have a technique that will help me answer the questions, but you may have a better technique. And that's why the tutoring, initially I did a group tutoring. So how it worked with Robin was she gave us some questions to do ahead of time. We had to do the questions. Well, no pressure to do the questions, but if you did the
Correct.
questions, was a lot of better. For me, it was a lot much, it was much better because I used my technique to answer the questions, and I felt I came to the tutorials prepared. So when Robin was going through the questions herself, I can talk her through with the method I used, and if there was a better way of approaching, or if there was questions I was stuck on and I just wasn't understanding, I could ask her questions. But if I came to there was once where I just didn't have any time and I couldn't prepare for the, questions, and you went through it in the tutorial, but I didn't feel I got much out of that other than me just listening to you going through the questions, which I could have got from the answer paper. It wasn't the same because I couldn't give any feedback or share my experience with those questions and get, kind of an easier solution. Like, for example, there was two solutions that you helped me with. There was the one with the ratio and the one with probability.
Oh, yes. I remember those. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the ratio and the probability question definitely comes up. It came up in my exam. It came up in all my practice papers. And the way I was doing the probability and the ratio questions was long-winded, and it was a little bit complicated. Sometimes I got the questions right. The other times I got the questions wrong because I was trying to find a way of answering those questions in a very mathematical way. I'm like stuttering here a little bit. I'm trying not to stutter.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah. And it's like when you're doing when you said like not getting much out of just watching, and that's something that's so relevant, because you can watch people do something until you're blue in the face. Until you actually do it yourself is when you learn for yourself.
Yeah.
So and obviously if there were questions that you didn't know how to do, you would maybe like try as much as you could try, and then wait until the group tutoring session, and then I would guide you through it, or basically teach you how to do it as we were doing it. So I think that's like a really good tip to share, is having trying all the problems.
So going back to the ratio and the probability questions, you kind of showed me a very easy technique which took literally 3 seconds.
Is it the pigs, cows, and chickens problems?
It was. And the way I was doing it, it was taking me at least 5 minutes and trying to figure out the answer. But you showed it in such a basic, easy way that I managed to answer those questions in probably less than 5 seconds.
That's amazing. And I actually learned that method from one of my students. From group tutoring in July. So it was funny because I was doing, setting up the, ratios, finding the least common denominator, and it took time. And then she actually showed me that chart. I actually did it for one of my little reels this week. I actually did a problem with I did pizza, but same idea, the 3 different units for the ratio. But she showed that to me and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is such a time saver. So I'm glad that helped you too, because I learned just as much from my students as they're learning from me too. So I'm always looking for different ways to do.
And I feel like I feel like I would have not got that just by doing the questions in your worksheets. That would have not been as sufficient for me. And then
Right.
I bought the booklet. Then I went and, because for me, it wasn't just knowing the content, it was knowing how to answer the questions. That's where I was having difficulties with. I can go into a classroom because I was, I started subbing around April time. So I didn't always have math class that I was teaching, but when there was a student that came up to me, I can teach the student certain things. But then when it came to the practice exam, I just couldn't answer those questions. So I needed practice with answering the questions and not just understanding the content of the questions. And that's what helped me. So I bought the booklet as well, the one with the, 60 pages or however many it was. There was a book that you had. I bought that. That was a really good investment for me. I went through all those questions. You had the answers for them as well. But
Mhm.
me having that tutorial was beneficial simply because I got those extra tips from you and I managed to talk to you. And then at the same time, certain things that were causing me to feel nervous or certain questions I was struggling with, I was able to ask you those questions in the tutorials. And then if you do remember, because I'm sure you had a lot of students, other than having the group tutorial, I decided to have a one-on-one.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
But with my time schedule, being a mom of young kids and having a full-time job, I wasn't able to do 1 hour. For me, I needed to do 30-minute slots, which you managed to cater for, and I really appreciate that. And I kind of planned it before my exam. So having someone there going through the questions with me, holding my hand, not literally holding my hand, but
Yes.
mentally holding my hand,
Mhm.
going through those questions and easing my nerves is what helped me go into that exam with confidence. And I definitely recommend that. So the one-on-one, the group tutorial helped me because I got to understand a little bit more from other people in the group and you. But having that one-on-one and going through those questions helped me a great deal.
Yeah, and I think that too. And I think what some people are scared of is the investment, which is obviously something, yes, it's an investment, but the praxis is expensive and the
It
least
is.
amount of times you have to take it is the better deal.
Yeah.
So what I always recommend is that if you want to do group tutoring, do the group tutoring, but then also do one-on-one tutoring, at least 1 or 2 sessions,
Yeah.
just so that you can ask what you need to ask and that I can help you with the exam prep.
Yeah.
And not saying that this is like, tooting my own horn by any way, shape, or form, but there's just not very many people that are doing like one-on-one tutoring
And
that,
that's true. I mean, like I
you
said,
know,
I didn't know you, Robin, prior to this, so I don't have an affiliation to. That's what I wrote in the group. I said, I don't have an affiliation saying this, but I cannot emphasize how much you truly helped me. That was a point I mentioned to you as well. And I said this to my husband because I was thinking initially I was earning an hour and thinking, okay, can I afford to do tutoring on the side, blah, blah, blah. Um, but it wasn't even that expensive. And considering the fact that if I fail my exam, not only am I wasting $130, but I'm wasting time as well because I can't do the exam again until 28 days. And I don't want to keep failing my exam every single time. And on top of that, school knew, like my co-workers knew I was doing this exam. So the embarrassment of me failing and them questioning whether I'm actually fit to be a maths teacher. So to me, it worked out a lot better. It wasn't that expensive to do the group tutoring or the private tutoring, but financially it worked out a lot better for me using you. Not using you, but yeah,
yeah.
using you as a teacher.
Well, and I do try, I do try to make it affordable. I mean, I'm getting bombarded with Black Friday deals.
Yeah,
And I mean, even for like one-to-one coaching retainers for, I'm, this is a business, obviously, and
yes,
for business coaching, a one-to-one retainer, for 2 months, um, I think was $1,000, $997 from the one,
yeah,
girl that I've worked with before. And I mean, when you consider 4 1-hour sessions for $67 or a 1 hour session, and then if you book, multiple sessions with me, I give you a discounted rate on each of those
yeah.
sessions as well. So, I mean, I don't think you're the investment is there, but it's not it's not overly like you don't have to invest a super ton of money, but it's saving you time in the long run too. Because I always say also, when you know that you've paid for tutoring, or you know that you've made the investment in something, it's like you're going to do it, and it's a
Yeah.
set time. Like, you know that like at this hour we're going to meet one-on-one, so you have to show up, or you're losing, or you're not getting that time. And it's like different than whenever, you're going to the gym and you're just like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow morning, and there's no one there. It's like,
I
if
mean,
you
the
have
thing
the
I appreciated,
accountability,
I mean, the thing I appreciated about your tutoring was, I didn't feel like it didn't seem like a money grabber to me. And I think, so I'm trying to use like, I'm not trying to use British terms. I'm trying to use like, trying to soften it, but as Brits, we just say it the way it is.
yeah, I
I've,
love it.
so, growing up, when I was using private tutoring in the past, I'm talking about during my academic years, it always felt like a business. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 minutes of, I'm going to pay for 30 minutes of tutoring. That 30 minutes, they will do what they're supposed to teach me. And that was it. But with you, it felt like you really cared about your students. You wanted them to succeed. So it's not just about, Razia, this is my tutoring lesson. You pay me $30. Tell me what questions you want. I'm going to go through them. That's it, done. End of session. It was not like that. You didn't care that sometimes it went a few minutes over, or, there were times where at the end of the session, it was your time. I used up my 30 minutes or my 1 hour, or however long it was, but I just needed someone to talk to ease my nerves, because it wasn't just knowing how to answer the questions. I was just nervous, especially before my exam. And I felt like it's my nerves that's going to fail me, because when you're nervous, you forget everything in the exam. You sat there and you talked to me, and you kind of like eased my mind, and you reassured me if there was something that I still was having a hard time with, even after my tutorial lessons, even though I paid for like a session, an hour session, for example. If I emailed you later on and said, Robin, I'm having a hard time with this question, do you mind just walking through it? You didn't come back to me and say, you know what, Razia, book another appointment, book another session. It wasn't like that. You just gave it to me. And I was like, you know what, that's so sweet. Because you could have just turned around to me and said, Razia, this is a business to me. I've given you a 1 hour tutorial. I need you to do another tutorial. Because I've had people say that to me. They said, okay, if you want me to go through more, or you want more questions, you need more help, why don't you book another session with me, and then we'll talk about it then. That never ever came out of you. You just said, okay, Razia, don't worry. You need more help. That's fine. Let me give you some more questions. Oh, you're stuck on that question. I'll email you back, and I'll see when I can go through it, and I'll give you the answers. Like, it was never, I never felt obligated to pay more to succeed. It's like for you, the priority was the students and how they succeed. And that's what, that's why I kind of stayed in touch. And I said, you know what, I need you to do the algebra one. Like I did not want to go with any of the tutors at all. It felt personal to me. And I like that.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Well, and that's how I've always viewed this as well. Because I do teach full time. I'm a secondary math teacher. I do teach full time. I have 7th through 12th grade. I have 2 daughters. I, help them with their math. And I never wanted any student to feel like when I was helping them, I was just doing my job. Like, I wanted them to feel like I actually care, because I do.
Yeah.
Whether or not they succeed. And it's like, even at school, like, I have students that come in outside of their math period, and they'll say, can you help me with this question? Or can you explain this again? If, sometimes you'll have that student that just needs an extra push. And I'm like, sure, yeah, come on over. And, I may explain it more than once, but it's just that I care that they know what they're doing. And I never wanted anybody to feel like I just was doing it, like you said, like a money grabber. Like, I feel like I want to give people immense value, because you do need someone that understands what you're going through. And I really appreciate that. And I always say, like, you have a friend for life, because I wish that I should have, but I mean, like, I've been tutoring for 3 years now, and I look back at my former students, and some of them I've kept in touch with and some of them I haven't. And then I will send them an email like, "Hey, just thinking of you, like, are you still working on your praxis?" And it's not for them to email me back and be like, "Oh, she wants me to book another tutoring appointment."
Yeah.
No, I'm just like genuinely like, I want to know. I want to know if
Yeah.
they've passed or if they haven't passed. And it's, it makes me feel good because I didn't have anybody to help me when I was taking my praxis.
Yeah.
And it was no internet, no resources digitally. It was go to the library, get these dusty books out that, were written in whatever year it
Yeah.
was. And I didn't have that accountability, or I didn't have that support. I had accountability because of my family members and stuff, but no one really knows what you're going through unless
Yeah.
they're going through it yourself. And I think that's where the Facebook group comes in, because you can get on there and you can say, "Oh my gosh, like I just, this is hard." And,
Yeah.
and you have so many people to give you feedback and to
And
cheer
it's
you
nice
on
because
and to celebrate
exactly,
you.
and there's some people where they've gone through the same experience as you. So, I'm gonna completely divert the conversation towards what the tips that I did and the kind
Yes.
of questions that came up in the exam. So, like I said to you, I'm working full time. I'm a, full time mom, full time working lady. So sometimes trying to find that time was hard without trying to get burnt out. The first, month or so, I almost got burnt out. So then I had to take a step back. I allocated 2 hours a day closer to my exam. So I'd say approximately 2 to 3 weeks before my exam, I allocated 2 hours a day, even if it was in 30-minute slots. So when I was working, I'd come home at 4 o'clock. I'd pick up my kids. I'd give my kids dinner, spend time with them, gave them family time. 8 o'clock was my time where I spent 8 to 9 o'clock just banging out as many questions as I can or studying wherever I can. I'll give myself a 30-minute break, and then from 9:30 to 10:30. I'm more of an evening person. I'm not a morning person.
Mhm.
So evening works out for me. I don't go to sleep until 1 o'clock in the morning anyway. That's just me. That's my bad timetable. If morning works for you, then do it early in the morning. If some of my friends wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, then it's quiet. Try to get an hour done. Take a 30-minute break. Have a breakfast, have a shower, whatever you need to do. Do what you need to do. Bang in another hour. Even though I'm not saying to do a whole full hour, but take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break in between, whatever works for you. But try to allocate yourself 2 hours in 24 hours. It's doable. I managed to do it. Um, a week before my exam, I completely shut down my social media. That was my biggest distraction. Sometimes as a
That's
mental
a great
break.
tip.
Yes. So sometimes as a mental break, I'll check my Facebook, check my, Instagram. But at the same time, I sometimes go into your Facebook group, but reading other people not doing well kind of gave me the nerves. And I thought, okay, I don't want their experience to become my experience. I know the exam is hard. I'm not going to say the exam is easy. The exam is hard, but having people keep reminding me how hard it is and how they fail kind of put that fear into me. And I didn't want that experience to be mine. So I completely isolated myself from the social media world. And then my exam, I planned my exam to have it on a Monday. So that gave me Saturday and Sunday free. If I did it in a weekday, for example, do I take time off work? How much time do I take off work? How am I going to plan this? So I planned my exam to do it on a Monday, so that gave me Saturday and Sunday off. And then Saturday, Sunday, I went to the library. I made myself lunch, went to the library for like 4 to 5 hours. And those 4 to 5 hours sitting in the library with no social media, no one to distract you, nothing to do other than books, and your lunch is already made, was enough for me to just motivate myself for those 5 hours and get solid work done. In that time, I'd made sure that I practice as many questions as I can. I went through different questions, went through different past papers, and went through Robin's questions. If there was anything that I was stuck on, I'll Google or I use ChatGPT to understand where I made a mistake, what I did a mistake on. So ChatGPT was also my best friend.
Yeah, and people don't know that, like, you can, I mean, it's a teacher's worst nightmare whenever you give kids homework, but you
Yeah,
can plug in a problem, a picture, or whatever to ChatGPT. And I would check for errors because there are
yeah,
errors, but at least it explains it to you also,
yes.
step by step as well.
Yeah. So some of the things I used was, and I used, like I said, Robin's questions. I used that more metrics. I used a 240 tutoring. Um, Jasper, Kathleen Jasper, I used her
Mhm.
past paper. I did find, to me, when I did the practice paper, I found the ETS and the Jasper, um, you know, practice paper very similar. And to me, they were very basic, much easier than the exam itself. Um, But then when I went into the exam, because I used the 240 tutoring, which is a lot more harder, they seem to be using a lot of high school tutoring in there. And I used Mometrics, which also had questions from high school. It kind of over prepared me a little bit. So when I went into the exam, there was a variety of questions. I can't even tell you a topic that was, kind of concentrated. They went through the probability question and the ratio question, 100% came up. You had, some of the trigonometry question that came up as well. So they did a little bit of geometry. I had a lot of function questions to try to understand the functions. Function was always one of my weakest subject. One of the questions that came up and I didn't like was where they give you they give you the equations and then you have to say which of those equations meet, how the equations meet on the graph and which area is shaded. So the
Oh,
inequality
yeah.
functions,
Hmm.
those come up as well. Um, but yes, there was a lot of function questions. So make sure you definitely do well in the function questions. And the probability questions, statistics, I didn't see as much, but
Oh,
between
that's good.
probability and statistics, it was mostly the probability question that came up. And then obviously I did Algebra 1 as well. Algebra 1 had the statistics and probability questions. Um, I I ended up scoring 174 on the middle school maths exam. So I came out really
Yay!
proud.
And
So it
your
helps.
score had increased like 20 some points, didn't it, from
Yeah.
the first time? Yeah, that's a
Yeah. So
big increase.
it is. So it felt good. I definitely did great. I didn't run out of time this time. I kind of paced myself. I didn't let myself get nervous. What I did though is I went through all the questions. If there was a question I was having a hard time with, I marked it and I came back to it after. So that's
Yeah.
one of the tips I will say.
Yes, flag
Um,
your question and then come back to it.
yes,
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 I
because
agree.
last thing you want to do is be stuck on that one question. It takes away your self-esteem. It makes you question the next questions, and you're using up a lot of time. If you end up with having, say, for example, you have 5 minutes left and you've got 6 questions left, doesn't matter. You know what? Even if you're running out of time, even if you've got 30 seconds left, answer anything. Like, just don't leave a question empty. So I never left any of the questions empty because even if you're guessing a question at that point, there's a possibility you might get it right. But if you leave it empty, then you definitely lost a point. So, do your very best in keeping an eye on the time. If you happen to run out of time and you've got a few questions left, do the best you can. If you can't answer those questions because you just don't know what the answer is, just guess a letter and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. Just don't leave any blank because you don't get penalized for if you miss something. You only get
yeah.
points if you get it correct. So you're not getting penalized in that way either.
Yeah.
How about the graphing calculator? The first time around, I believe you didn't
I
use your
didn't
graphing calculator, if I
I didn't
remember
use the graphing.
correctly.
So I didn't use the graphing calculator at all. And if you remember me in the tutorials, I was like, oh, you know what? Is there a way of just doing the answers without the graphing calculator? I don't have time for it. But then, you were determined in my last tutorial, the day before my exam, you said, you know what, Razzie, I'm just going to show you briefly how to use it. And you did. You just showed me how to do the graphs and it helped me. So there was 2 questions that came up, especially with the shaded area where I had to do the shaded area.
Oh,
It
yes.
helped to know.
Mhm.
Yeah. So maybe it doesn't show you where the area, maybe you can't do I didn't know how to do the inequality on a graph. Maybe the other people will know how to do the inequality questions. I just did the questions as it is, just to see how the graph will look like. And then based on that, I did where the shading would be, and I got that right. I did well in that either way. But the graphing calculator did help, especially when there were questions to tell you. There were certain questions that will give you an equation, and they'll say, which graph do you think that is? And
Yeah,
that was,
and
yeah,
yeah, that's helpful with a graphing calculator just to plug it in and then you just have to
that's
match
literally
which
the
one.
answer. Yes,
Mhm.
that's literally
Yeah.
the answer for you there. So try to understand how to do graphic calculator. You don't have to learn anything fancy with it. Just learn how to do the graph. And YouTube channels or Robin or whoever can help you out. It's really
Yeah,
worth learning it.
if you don't spend time getting to learn the graphing calculator, I think you're doing a disservice because it's there as a tool for you
Yeah,
to use. So at least just to know how to do the basic, graph or basic calculations is, helps with your timing too. It speeds
yeah.
things up, I believe.
Yes, for sure, for sure. But yeah, but there, I think that's about all the tips I have. And with Algebra 1, I do get my official results next Friday. I did it last week. And yeah, I saw the results, and I needed 148 in Virginia to pass, and I got 162 or 64 or something.
That's
So,
amazing. That is
and
so good.
and as you can see, I was like stressing out with the Algebra 1 because there was no resource. There's nothing at all
No,
for
and
Algebra
I
1.
don't have anything
Yeah.
practice-wise for the algebra tests. Now mainly because if it's odd because the 5164 covers algebra 1 if you're teaching algebra 1 in 8th grade. But
Yeah.
if you want to teach an actual algebra 1 class that's not in 8th
No, it's not
grade,
enough.
then you have to either have the 5165 secondary
Yeah.
math or the algebra 5162 on its own. So yeah, I
Yeah.
am working, that's on my 2026 list of
Yeah.
materials to start making since I'm getting the requests for it. I know you already took yours, but
Yeah.
maybe after I have it done at some point, I can send it over
Yeah.
to you and see what you think and give me,
Yeah.
this is good, this needs change. But
I mean, I
oh,
definitely feel like I could have done a lot better in the exam. I was confident when I walked into the exam. I feel like I could have, but I didn't pay attention to the time. And I rushed it towards the end. And then anyway, that's to do with ETS. So ETS, one of the questions wasn't even letting me answer for some bizarre reason, but that's a different story. But either way, I personally did feel Algebra 1 to me was a little bit more easier than the middle school maths, but I
oh,
scored
okay.
higher in middle school maths. But both exams, when I went in to the exam, I felt confident and I felt good.
Well, and that's the main thing. I think like just having the confidence and how you said about like removing the social media because you were going into the group. And I mean,
Yeah.
as hard as it is whenever someone's not passing or saying that the test is really hard, like it is
Yeah.
changing your, perspective. And
Perception.
when you're
Yeah.
in your, mind space of being like, I need to pass, I need happy
Yeah.
positive, like, so there is the good, the bad, and the ugly in there, just
It
as
is.
any community
Yeah.
group that you have. But I like how you said that you just took that off. You didn't look, you just, stayed focused and confident. And I
Yeah.
really think that that's where, I have students who, the math, I know they know the math, but then when they go
Yeah.
into her tests, they're like, I forgot everything. And it's because you're under that timed
You're
pressure
nervous.
and
Yeah.
just that test anxiety of like, I forgot everything. So,
I mean, one thing my husband said to me, and I thought was a great advice. He said, the day before the exam, after 9 p.m., don't even look at any questions or anything at all. At 9 o'clock is going to make it 8 o'clock if you can, but 9 o'clock is your cutoff time. And then just do whatever you need to do. Have a shower, relax, watch a show, anything,
just to
and
take
have an
your
early
mind
night.
off of the test so that you're not
Yes.
going in there already like,
Yes. And
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 would
one thing
you,
one thing I did do though, and I forgot to mention was when I was studying, I did write some notes, just like formulas or certain method questions I was stuck on. Just writing some of the questions I was stuck on, I wrote the answers for it and how to do the step by step how to do the answer. So in the morning of the exam, 30 minutes before I walk in, I'd get to the exam early. 30 minutes before, I've got the sheets with me, only 3 or 4 pieces of paper with some of my notes. I'll just skim read it just to refresh it back into my memory.
mhm, that's a good
So
idea.
So, don't just use highlighters. If you're using a textbook to relearn everything like I did, don't just use a highlighter and highlight the textbook, because you're not going to take the textbook with you and read through it again. Just, always keep a piece of paper with you and a pen. And instead of highlighting it in the book, write a note, a brief note, like what is this equation? How do you do this? Do something step by step, so you can just walk around with the loose papers and read through it. It's easier and less overwhelming before the exam to look at 3 pieces of loose paper as opposed to looking through a textbook with highlights. Highlighting makes no difference at all, not in my opinion, because you're not going to go through that book again and you're not going to read through the highlight. It's just a waste of time.
Right. And just having your own separate set of notes was definitely helpful for you.
Yeah, use different colors if you have to, just to visualize it. But whatever method it takes, draw flowers, who cares? Do sticky notes, whatever. But just have loose papers with a few notes, just so you can look at it before you go into the exam. It's not going to make you nervous. It's just going to re-jog your memory a little bit and remind you of, everything that you worked hard for. But I think you'll be fine. Yeah, you can
Those
do
are
it.
great tips, Roz. I so appreciate you coming on and sharing with everyone your experience and just giving everybody motivation that they will pass.
Yeah,
And, there's no shame in not passing the first time.
it's tough. It's hard.
It's
You
very
can do it.
hard.
Yeah.
And it just, makes you more motivated to pass on your,
Yes.
this next time you take it.
I mean,
So
my last thing I would say to anybody who's doing a practice exam, you've got a bachelor's. You've gone through university. You've gone through all your high school, middle school. You've even gone through university. University's tough. If you guys can get through university and do those exams and get your certification of whatever you're doing, then trust me, practice exam, the only thing that's holding you back is not having the resource. If we had the resource, available, you'd be like passing with flying colors. So if there is a resource like Robin, use it. It works out cheaper. And yeah, that's all you need to do. Just practice the questions and you'll be fine. If you can get through university, you can get through these practice exams. It's possible.
I like that. That's very good ending words of wisdom. Do you have anything else you want to say to anybody that's watching
Um,
or listening?
well, I've commented in Robin's Facebook group. If anyone has any questions, just feel free to send me a message. I'll do my very best. I probably have an empty bank in my brain. I've forgotten a lot of things, but I will do my very best, especially considering the fact that I just did my Algebra 1 exam and, I managed to pass that the first time. So feel free to send me a ping message or whatever. The group is so supportive. There's other people in the group I've seen that gave me the confidence and support and told me I can do it. Believe me, you're going to be able to do it. Don't let if you have failed it once, twice, 3 times, or however many times you may have failed it, don't let that knock you down and make you feel like you're not going to be able to do it another time. You just haven't had anything to prepare you enough. That's all it is. That's what it was for me. That's what it is for you. And you're going to be able to do it. You're smart. You'll be able to do it. You'll figure it out. So
Great.
yeah.
Oh, that's so good, Roz. Okay, I'm gonna end recording, but don't go anywhere. All right.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next time.